$1,000, hand it over. And why is that? And you could say that, well, you know that $1,000, a lot of my students say, well, $1,000 is going to be worth less in a year. Why? Well, what else? There's risk associated, right? So we know that there's a risk that I won't be around to pay it. Something will happen. The economy will be different. Your need for that $1,000 will change. And then I ask a different question to my students and I say, hey, so what would you, if I offered you $1,000 in a year, what's the amount of money that is equivalent to that sum that you'd accept today? What makes that question difficult for you? If I say, I'll give you 500 today or $1,000 in a year, what would you pick? And the students think about it, and people have different risk tolerances. We all have a different opinion of what that means. But we have an intrinsic notion that that number is smaller than that number is pretty small. And time value of money measures risk. It measures our anticipation of outcomes, and it measures the anticipation of what's going to happen. So when we have interest rates, or we have something called the discount rate, the discount rate is fundamentally the rate at which we discount those future values back to present day. So if you have a really, really big discount rate, 20%, 30%, 40%, those future values discounted back to today get smaller. If your rate is 0%, $1,000 today and $1,000 in a year is worth the same amount of money. But as interest rates go up, those values become smaller and smaller and smaller. Now think of yourself as a corporation now. You're trying to build something. You're going to build a company. You're going to build a plant. You're going to build a new factory in Santa Fe. You're going to go to Midtown and build the world's most dynamic economy. And you're deciding if you're going to invest $50 million in us or not. So you're going to look at this over 10 years. You'll have a terminal value. You run a projection, and it'll look the same. Every financial projection looks the same here, in JP Morgan, in Wall Street, in the Bank of Japan, wherever you go in the world, we all make these projections. And you look on a wall and you say, how much money is coming in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, and year 10? But you don't take that number at aggregate. You discount that back to present day using a discount rate. And when the Fed raises the discount rate, what they do is all those other rates go up too. So let's say I'm looking at this project. This is going to cost me $50 million. When discount rates are low, I run the numbers, I get $60 million of revenue from this project. Great deal. 10 million in the positive, sunshine, rainbows, unicorns. But then on the other side of it, what happened? Fed raises rates. They're trying to control inflation. That means that that discount rate is going to make my future cash flow projection next year, the year after that, all the way to the end of time, smaller. I run that $50 million project again. The next day, I end up with $40 million of revenue. I'm 10 million in a hole. I put this back to the council and I say, I'm going to pass on this project. Interest rates aren't favorable. At the bottom line, every company is making a decision like that. And when there is a situation where interest rates go up, all of those projects that look like they're good ideas 1 year and 2 years down the line get canceled. And that means less money gets asked for from banks. And that means less people are hired. Less money gets flown through the system. And in the real scope of things, that controls monetary supply in the economy. Banks don't lend as much. All this stuff happens. That's what we've seen. And that constricts money supply, and that controls inflation. By lower rates, everybody's got a project idea. Everybody's got a company that wants to do something. Everybody's going to ask the bank for money. There's a money multiplier effect. You ask for money, everyone's going to ask for money. That there's business activity everywhere, but that also means that there's more money sloshing around the system. People put it in good places. They put it in bad places. They don't know where to put it. They just know they have it. That increases inflation. That is like that was like a 5-minute explanation of like the overall picture for companies, but they make these, this is happening everywhere in aggregate all the time at every moment.
Thank you. And I think that, and so how that's like from a business perspective. And so in New Mexico and Santa Fe, we don't have as many big corporations that are investing. So how do we relate that to New Mexico and Santa Fe, New Mexico, and how it affects because we're looking from our perspective, our industry is tourism,
Yes.
hospitality, and you touched a little bit about that. And how do interest rates affect that? In a sense, you said it doesn't, because people that are coming here have the money to
No, they do.
spend,
Right.
and that doesn't really affect them. And so, going back to even housing, you touched a little bit on housing and how that affects either building houses or not building houses or economic development from that standpoint. And so how do we take the information that's being provided here in regards to interest rates into what we can do here as a community to create more growth or economic growth, or to create more of or I guess you could say, a strong base of income for the city?
I love that question, Councilor Garcia. Thank you so much for asking it. I love this entire line of questions. Great. So I'll try not to be as verbose. So I'll break it down. So a few things. So the first thing, when we think about smaller businesses in Santa Fe, yes, bigger companies, but it manifests itself different. So I started out as a commercial banker before I was to lend to a lot of small companies. And in one of the things, we'd give line of credits, we'd give other things, we'd give different vehicles, we'd have larger companies and hotels that were structured mid-market, complicated stuff. But the small stuff, the line of credits, every entity here in town, some are owned outright, that's wonderful. They've been in the family for a while. Some, and a lot of times, anytime there's new construction, anytime there's even existing businesses, they take out lines of credit, they take out debt, they take out other finance vehicles. When interest rates go up, that hurts them. That hits their bottom line. A lot of businesses operate lines of credit this way. They say, I'll take out, and even though customers are still coming in, they're not affected by interest rates. Those people fly out from Texas, they'll fly out from California, they'll fly out from New York for the Santa Fe experience. But the businesses that serve them rely on these financing costs and these financing opportunities to decide, hey, do I have enough money to upgrade my equipment? Do I have enough money to hire folks? Do I have enough? How do I make payroll when in downtime? We all know how difficult that is for small businesses to maintain. And you're dealing with labor shortages, you're dealing with higher rates, you're dealing with all these different factors that are putting pressure on your business. And you're saying, yes, there are customers out there, but your ability to reach them is limited now. Because, and this is the big thing. So you ask this thing as well, what does it do? What does higher rates do? It puts a cost on expanding the business. And it adds to that cost of growth, the cost of investing for the future. That's what higher interest rates do. Now, it creates lower inflation in the long run. That's true.
But in the short term, it affects your ability to grow because you don't want to invest in the cost.
And people will be hesitant. That's right. And to your second question about serving other things, that's a wonderful question too. So many other parts of the town, so many parts of the city. So there's hesitation. When you look at the question of simplest question, what is an affordable home? In January 2021, the average mortgage rate was 2.65%. That was generated then. Now it is 7%, it's 8%. That is literally double the monthly payment that you'd have to spend for that. So you can buy the house size for a family of four. You're making $60,000, $70,000, maybe less, maybe more. You want a home in there. It is impossible to find a home for that way in Santa Fe at rates at this level. When rates were 2.5%, more things were on the table, but it was still hard. Yeah, exactly. So that's the hard part. So it limits when we have questions of affordable housing, other questions, that bang for your buck goes down.
Thank you. I could probably stay here all day asking you questions because I could tell you're used to pointing at a whiteboard a lot too.
I'm not able.
I will yield the floor. Thank you for answering those, and I like the enthusiasm that you bring forth.
Other questions from the committee on this? Okay, thank you for being back again. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Other questions for Director Latero on the third quarter performance report? Okay, we'll just move along then. All right, we did have one item pulled off of consent. That was item H.
Madam Chair,
Yes, I'm sorry.
my
Director
apologies.
Oster. Oh,
We
no,
have
I
a-
did, you're right. Sorry. We need to go back. We had a presentation that we skipped over. We do have a finance staff recognition, and to you, Director Oster.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. It is my pleasure to recognize Erminia Tapia, who to most I think means no introduction, but I'm going to introduce her anyway. Erminia Tapia was born and raised in Belen, New Mexico, and is a graduate of Capitol High School in Santa Fe. She is a wife and mother of 2 boys, one of which has special needs, and has been a strong advocate amongst legislators partnering with the New Mexico School for the Deaf and the Autism Learning Collaborative. In her professional career, Erminia currently serves as the administrative manager at the City of Santa Fe Finance Department, which we are so grateful that Erminia chooses to be with us in the Finance Department. She has over a decade of experience in state and municipal government in various roles within public service, such as human services, public utilities, general government, and arts and culture. With a strong background in executive administration, having served as an executive administrator to former Mayor Javier Gonzalez and briefly for Mayor Alan Weber through 2019. Erminia is a recent graduate of Leadership Santa Fe, demonstrating commitment to civic engagement and professional development. She possesses a deep understanding of local government operations and a track record of supporting high-level officials. Erminia continues to grow professionally and personally with ambitious goals in mind. And, Erminia keeps things running for us in the finance department. She joined us in the fall of last year, and she has been such an amazing addition to the team. In addition to keeping me organized and keeping everything going in terms of all of our personnel actions, Erminia has been instrumental in helping us significantly lower our vacancy rate. She has helped us plan a number of amazing events, including a wonderful barbecue last week to start out the fiscal year in a wonderful style in FY25. And just really, I could go on and on. Erminia brings so much to the finance department, and it is my pleasure and my honor to recognize her tonight. So I have 2 certificates, Erminia, to present to you. The first here is a certificate of appreciation, and it says the following award is given to Erminia M. Tapia. This certificate is given to Erminia M. Tapia in appreciation for performance, service, and dedication to the City of Santa Fe, New Mexico Finance Department. And this is signed by Mayor Alan Weber and me. Congratulations, Erminia.
Erminia, will you come into the camera view? Just get close that way to Director Oster. There you go.
The second certificate is a Muchísimas Gracias Award from the City of Santa Fe, also signed by Mayor Alan Weber. And this one says, this certificate is presented to Erminia Tapia, Administrative Manager. Thank you for your tireless efforts to help the Finance Department achieve its goals in fiscal year 2024. And congratulations on graduating with the Leadership Santa Fe class of 2024. Your professionalism, dedication, and positive attitude brings an extraordinary value to our workplace. Thank you for your invaluable contributions every day. Huge thank you to Erminia. Would you like to say?
I just want to say I'm about to go on my 10 years with the city this September, and it has been a pleasure to work with all of you and everyone that I've met over the years and all the people that I continue to meet. And I love my job and I love being of service. And thank you all so very much for having me.
Congratulations. Definitely well deserved. You work very hard, and I know you are absolutely critical to the finance department, and you are very helpful with us as well. So very much thank you. All righty. We are going to move on then to the item that was pulled. Oh, yeah, please do.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I've been here long enough that I saw Erminia walk in the door. And we've worked together magnificently over the years. We had a common bond in our relationship with Mayor Javier Gonzalez. I know that how caring you were with him and how much he trusted you. and the work that you did for him. And, you know, it was always, if that was good enough for him, that was good enough for me. So I really appreciate the work that you've done, the leadership that you've shown, and you're a very, very smart woman with a bright future. Thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you, Counselor Lindell. Counselor Cassett.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just want to say that Armenia was incredibly crucial in helping Counselor Chavez and I with our arts and culture funding that we had for the district, and just the incredible amount of work and dedication and organization that you were able to provide. We would not have been able to do it without you. And then I, of course, rely on you for so much. Now I'm totally biased because, of course, we have also developed such a wonderful friendship as evidenced by my tiny human chasing after Auntie Armenia right now. But I just really want to thank you for all the work that you do. And I know in every single department that you've been in, which is, you know, so incredible the way that you just kind of absorb the knowledge of the department. And I think that that makes you really critical to the city as a whole, because you can come to a different department and have this understanding of BDD, of arts and culture, of the, you know, the mayor's office, and now of finance. And I know in our conversations that that's something that you really strive for, is to really dive into a department and understand every single nook and cranny. So thank you for that curiosity and dedication, and for everything that you do, and for existing in my life.
Okay. Again, thank you. This is well-deserved recognition, and just congratulations on 10 years. I hope you have 10 more.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, counselors. Thank you, Emily.
We have our budget director here, I think, perhaps.
Sorry, Madam Chair, counselors, I won't take long. I just wanted to say I have been here for near 21 years. We've had some good people in Armenia's position in the past, but she's just blown them all away. She has really upped our game in the finance department 1,000%. And, you know, I just want to say we all really will love her and appreciate her. And, you know, if she tries to go anywhere, we'll tie her down and, you know, duct tape her to her chair. So I just want to
Thank
add
you
that.
for adding that. And I think the other thing is that you everything you do is with such energy and good demeanor, right? It never, no matter how much is sort of put in your lap, you're always you know, you're just let's get it done. So I have to say, I personally really appreciate that about you, and I'm sure others do as well. So thank you. Okay. All right, now I'm going on to item H, right? Okay, a bill relating to housing discrimination, defining source of income and prohibiting discrimination based on source of income, including quote unquote sex, in addition to quote unquote gender, as a protected class, defining quote unquote owner, and making technical corrections. And I don't think we have staff on this tonight. And again, it is being pulled off because I think there is an amendment that is being offered. So I think the first thing we need is a motion on the bill itself. Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the bill itself. And then Councillor Cassidy, are you offering the amendment?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So it is Amendment B in your packet. There are a couple pieces to this amendment. A lot of this was in response to some of the concerns we heard from the community of individuals who actually work in affordable housing, and looking at how we balance both the landlords and, of course, the tenants' needs. It's, you know, who we really are wanting to make sure that we open up that housing stock for them. One piece that comes in on page 4, line 13, we are striking or private and on line 15, adding other form of governmental housing assistance. So what this has to do with the type of assistance that is coming through. We heard that there are sometimes nonprofits, churches, different organizations that may provide some housing assistance, but it's not consistent, as opposed to a governmental backed voucher, which is reliable, can be, you can sign a 12-month lease. And so it can be really challenging for a landlord to be in a position if someone is given 3 months rent, but there's nothing else to really back them up. So this really looks at making sure that the vouchers that we are talking about are government-backed vouchers. So it might be HUD, it might be our Affordable Housing Trust Fund, any type of state money, which the vast majority of housing assistance is going to be anyhow. So that is the first piece of this amendment. The second is when we go to page 6, line 7, adding in part C, nothing in this ordinance shall bar a landlord from renting to a different prospective tenant if the agency providing housing support fails to complete a required initial inspection within 5 business days after notification that a prospective tenant has selected a unit, or if reinspection is required, fails to complete the reinspection within 5 business days of receiving notification that repairs have been completed, provided the landlord makes a good faith effort to schedule the inspection with the agency. There is some concern that there have been times when HUD or whoever it is that needs to pass the unit is not responding. And we do not want to penalize a landlord because of a failure or a delay from a different entity. And so with them, losing a week or 2 weeks rent could actually be pretty detrimental to a lot of these landlords who utilize this to actually pay their mortgage. So this was pulled out of the Albuquerque ordinance to make sure that in those scenarios that does not happen. To counter this, and some of these concerns that were brought up, and of course, the goal is to really expand housing options. We have delayed the implementation of just the source of income piece of this ordinance. So everything else in this ordinance still is moving through. There can be no discrimination on sex and gender and race and all of the other pieces that are discussed. But we are now looking at an August 1st, 2025, I believe. Yes, if you go to page 16, line 24, section 18, creating section 26-4.20 of SFCC 1987 to read as follows. Effective date, the source of income discrimination prohibitions in this ordinance are effective August 1st, 2025. This was from feedback of our Office of Affordable Housing that first and foremost, that if somebody were to come to them and say there's been a discrimination based on source of income, there is not really a process in place at the city, but that they feel within a year we can have an implementation plan that will be adopted by the governing body that will look at both how we implement this piece of the ordinance, making sure that the structures are in place to do so, as well as looking at some of these broader education components that we can work with landlords in the community about taking different vouchers, which a lot of landlords, once they do, find that it is very beneficial. It's very consistent, as well as going through some of the new HUD requirements and partnering with some organizations that are willing to do that educational outreach, as well as looking at some of the different programs that are available through the state that will help landlords bring their units up to HUD standards or state standards, whatever the case may be. So that is why that year, just a bit over a year gap is being proposed. And with that, I will answer any questions from the committee.
All right, questions from the committee?
Motion to.
Yes, Councillor Lee Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, no, I do not. Move to approve Amendment B.
Is there a second? Okay, so there's a motion and a second to pass this, and we're on discussion. Councillor Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate this coming forth because I think it addresses the main concern in regards to how anyone who wants to rent a home for whatever reason, addresses their, and I hope I'm on the right track with this, addresses their need to adhere to the real strict and stringent rules that HUD puts forth for people who rent. Am I on the right track here?
I mean, yes. Now, I mean, if you look at the HUD standards, they are long, but things you would expect, like you have to have windows that work. You have to, it's basic standards of living that I would imagine any landlord would really want to bring their unit up in order to rent. Chances are they would have a hard time renting a unit that does not meet those standards. But if HUD rejects a landlord, the landlord has not rejected HUD. So that is correct, that if HUD or whoever it is says we will not pay to this landlord, that landlord has not rejected HUD. Again, they're pretty basic. I would imagine that somebody would struggle to rent for more if they are not meeting these standards of, water must work, you must have safe electricity, and probably things that we need to look at as a whole for general safety of any tenants in the city.
Thank you. And again, just trying to wrap my head around making a landlord or a person who owns a property who is incompliant. Here again, guess if they're incompliant, then they just take the voucher. And so it just kind of reinvents that ability to allow people to utilize their voucher money. Again, just a little bit of wanting to protect also people who we do not want people trying to rent places that are completely inadequate to live in, and I think that that's important. And good. That's kind of where I was going. Thank you so much. No more questions.
Other questions? I think we did hear that the HUD regulate, and I agree with what Councilor Garcia just said about how, we do need to have a certain level of housing that's being provided. People should live in places that are, not leaking, where the water works, where the heat works, all those kinds of things. We did have some folks who in the audience who talked about kind of the possibly even onerous nature of the regulations, and what do you do if people can't afford to do what they prescribe? I don't know. Did you have a chance to visit with those folks, and what did they, what was the conclusion? I guess I'm concerned about, and I don't know, I seem to remember maybe there was an example about stucco. I would think, if stucco is causing leaking inside the home, that's obviously a condition we don't want people living in. But if it's just aesthetically unpleasing, where's the line in terms of whether you have to do that, and just kind of overall nature of those regulations, and what happens if the landlord can't provide, financially just isn't in a position to do that. How would this work?
So correct. So in that scenario, HUD would reject them. And so that would be the end of that. When looking at the standards again, it is a long list. I would not give a percentage because I did not count, but most of it is what you would expect and what we would expect and what we would want to require. And I think that is a broader conversation around the public health and safety of renters, and that Councilor Castro and I have discussed minimum standards for being able to rent a unit in the city of Santa Fe, and something that we are going to be working on and exploring. But in terms of the onerous nature, it's government. Government is fun to deal with, as we all know. So that is where we will be working with local organizations, New Mexico, Coalition to End Homelessness at the meeting stood up and said that they would be interested. We know some of our other partners who disperse our vouchers from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund are also interested in providing some public education and helping people work through this process, and landlords that are interested in qualifying for Section 8 and how they work through and how they apply with HUD, as well as the understanding that there's potentially some money through the state that we've been hearing some discussions around programs to help bring units up to standards, and how we can look at pulling some of that money down into the city of Santa Fe, as well as, is this a potential use for our Affordable Housing Trust Fund? Now, I would want to make sure that their unit stays affordable for 10 years if we're going to give them money. But again, there's some questions around there of what some of that programming looks like. So that's where that 1-year gap, in order to have this implementation plan, that we do want to be comprehensive in that sense, that it's not just about what happens at the city at an enforcement level, but also how is the community engagement, community education, support for expanding these units. How can that potentially be implemented here in the city?
Okay, thank you. And Albuquerque has this same source of income prohibiting discrimination?
Yes, Albuquerque does.
Other questions from the committee? All right, I think we can vote on the amendment.
Excellent, Madam Chair. So on Amendment B, I have the motion made by Councillor Cassidy to adopt Amendment B and a second from Councillor Faulkner. So on that motion, Councillor Cassidy,
Yes.
Councillor Wendell, Councillor Faulkner,
Yes.
Councillor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Chairman Merriworth.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, back on the bill as amended. Are there other, anything else anybody wants to know? Other questions? Are we ready to vote? Looks like we are ready to vote on the bill as amended.
Great, thank you. And on the bill as amended, I have the motion was made by Councillor Faulkner, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. Councillor Cassidy,
Yes.
Councillor Wendell, Councillor Faulkner,
Yes.
Councillor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Chairman Merriworth.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you. We have an amended bill moving forward to the governing body. All right, I should have mentioned this earlier. We are, my understanding is we are now live on YouTube with audio. Sorry about the earlier snafu. I did consult with the city attorney's office, and we did pick up the meeting where we broke it off. My understanding is we don't have to have the YouTube component in order to continue to proceed, and we were able to get the meeting back live on YouTube, but that was not necessary under open meetings to be able to continue. So with that, we will now go. We do not have any discussion items tonight. We do have one item for introduction, and I believe the sponsor sits on our very own committee. So I'll turn it over to you, Councillor Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is again a resolution that adopts the City of Santa Fe's regional annual transit service plan for fiscal year 2025, accepting the NCRTD, which is the North Central Regional Transit District's fiscal year 25 proposed funding. Regional services provided by the city, the amount is $1,421,890. We have to submit this plan to them in order to receive that funding. Approving submitting the city's regional annual transit plan for the fiscal year 2025 to the NCRTD's Board of Directors for approval. And so we're getting back on track. The previous one that just came to the governing body last month or month and a half ago was to receive money that was past due, which the NCRTD did graciously allow us to do that and get that money. And this one will get us a little more current. And so that's what this is about.
Terrific. All right, so that is introduced. We don't have an executive session, so we'll go to matters from staff. Director Oster, did you have anything?
No matters from me tonight. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And happy birthday.
Madam Chair.
Matters from the committee? Matters from the chair. Our next meeting is Monday, July 29th, of the Finance Committee, but otherwise we'll see you all Wednesday night for the governing body meeting. Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.